I have 101 on my handy dandy, so I will call the Beavercreek Township meeting of June 23rd, 2014 to order. Are there any changes to the proposed agenda?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be striking the second item under the fire budget, the microwave replacement.
Okay. Well, that makes it good. One less thing. Anything else? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for June 23rd, 2014 meeting.
Oh, I missed something. Second.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna go back one place because I jumped over the agenda without looking. Last meeting, we approved the policy that we would start our meetings with a pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. So if you would all just stand for the pledge. Mr. Kretz, if you would lead us.
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. I will not forget the next one.
That's okay.
Payroll, motion to approve the payroll.
Make a motion to approve the June 25, 2014 payroll in the amount of $267,374.53.
Second.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $182,528.91.
Second.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes, the minutes from the regular meeting held May 27th, 2014.
Second.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting held May 27th, 2014.
Second.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the special meeting, the minutes from the special meeting held June 9th, 2014.
Second. At this point, I would just like to say, I think the minutes were very complete. And in spite of not having the audio, that they were written up, and I was surprisingly complete from almost verbatim, so I thought that, but I will second those, so.
Yeah, I don't, it's too hard for me to take notes that fast, but.
It
Mr.
worked.
Well, you did it on those minutes, okay?
It worked.
He's going to do the minutes from now on. I'm just saying. Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
So you want the second, the regular meeting?
And I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held June 9th, 2014.
And I will second those, and that's what surprised me, is that the first set of minutes was so complete, and then there was a caveat saying that because of the lack of audio, that the discussion was minimal. So that's what confused me, and my questions came through. But the minutes, as far as I could see, were accurate, although I think that we need a little bit of discussion to explain fully why it is those of us on the board vote the way we do. But with that, I will call for a vote.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes. At this time, we open our meeting to any citizen who would like to speak to us about any issue in the township concerning us, good, bad, complimentary. Seeing none. Old business. I don't see any old business. New business. Mr. Zaharieff?
Board, thank you. Just one discussion item is the audit committee to give you an update where we're at. And I'm currently working on the policy as requested by the board on the expansion of the audit committee. However, while asking the current audit committee members if they would like to continue their service with the expanded role, I did hear back from 2 individuals that no longer can serve on that committee. I have received two names for the audit committee and some suggestions for others. I just want to clarify, we do want to expand the committee from currently 3 to 5.
And you were going to be giving us a policy so we understood what
Two separate.
the audit investment committee would include, is
They
that
weren't two
correct?
separate. I think the intent was to expand the audit committee to include the financial.
Right.
That's what we had originally discussed, correct?
Yeah, okay.
So,
I didn't realize they
I
were
thought,
adding members.
I didn't either. I thought you were keeping it separate. I thought you were keeping an audit committee and
well,
then
we had,
Yeah.
what we were gonna do is we were gonna ask the audit committee, the members of the audit committee, if they would be willing to serve on the investment committee.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so it technically is two separate committees.
Yeah. Although I
'Cause they could
see
say
it as
no.
one.
Right.
It could potentially be the same people if it was all the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the
I do have-
investment committee, you want 3?
Correct.
Okay.
And I have
Okay.
one name that I can give to you.
Okay.
So I can give it, his name's Eric Henry.
Okay.
He's with PNC.
Okay.
Okay, and I believe I
Do we
gave
have anything
you
with PNC though?
one.
Yeah, we do have a lot,
We-
of,
we-
a lot of our accounts are with PNC.
We have
I don't
accounts with
know if
PNC. I
that's-
don't know if you wanna do that.
Well, which bank is he at?
He is in private wealth management.
Is it at the same branch?
I don't know,
I
it's
think,
not,
you
he's
know-
not at a branch location, he's the senior
but-
vice president.
Yeah, and our dealings are with the people downtown as well. So, I mean, it's not an issue for me. I just wanted to make the
Right.
board aware that we do have most of our accounts at PNC. So if that
Okay.
is a conflict, then that would preclude him from.
At this point, I don't see it's a conflict, but maybe we turn it over to Ms. Frick. Do you think there's a,
Well, I mean, if the investment committee is reviewing the investments, I mean, it might be best not to have someone whose your investments are with reviewing your investments.
yeah, but our investments are with Morgan Stanley at the present time.
We also
Oh,
have.
well, we have a money
We also
market
have
That's
account.
where the money market.
I don't know if I consider that a true investment other than this money sitting in an account.
He expressed interest, so if it's a conflict, he would be the first one, and we would mutually agree it would not work.
Well,
He-
the only
he
other
did
thing we
express
did
interest.
speak to was that whoever sat on that investment committee then would obviously not be able to have their firm in any way represent the township.
Right.
If we already have a money market and he's with PNC, now we've already violated that
Well,
rule, you know what we're saying?
If you classify a money market
It's
into
an
an
investment,
investment.
It's not a checking account, it's not a savings account.
it's a parking account, if you would. It's,
But they have ours.
yeah, it's could we sort of think about that? Because I personally don't see that. As long as he's not a bank.
Let me first
Yeah.
ask him, if he's expressed interest, let me first ask him to explore if it's a conflict with PNC. If it is, then it's a moot point. So if it's not, then we can have further discussion, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that'll give you a little bit of time to,
Okay, did you
To
want to
think
do it
about it as
today, or
well.
did you
'Cause
want to
I
put it
don't-
off to the next
Yeah.
meeting?
No, we don't have the
The
names,
names
we
are
have
already-
resolutions. I just wanted to clarify.
I don't disagree that we don't wanna create a conflict for
Right.
either side, for either PNC or for
Right.
the township. It was just, he's an individual that's been in wealth management for a long time, retired Army Ranger, and so.
Okay.
And I didn't halfway wonder if Janet Gum was a little confused as to how that was presented, whether she didn't want to take on the added responsibility of the
I'll call
investment.
Right.
But I think she maybe thought it was all one
All or
shot,
nothing,
so you might follow up with her.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
I don't know for sure, and I have not spoken with her, but
Okay, yeah, I'll get with her.
And what I gather from what you're putting together, reviewing the investments that we are making or have made is what they're doing, rather than suggesting what investments to make. They're not going to manage our investments, that committee. They're just gonna review the ones that are being proposed. Is that more accurate?
Well, I would assume, just like any committee, that would, potentially they could make recommendations as well, but I don't expect them to say this. But I think it's to review and potentially
Yeah.
make recommendations.
Maybe so much money should be put in investments or laddered or however,
Sure.
not
That's-
put it into this stock and that stock. Well, we can't do stocks, but just in,
Right.
you know, this bond or that bond, however it is. They would not tell us where to put it, but maybe more should put in, less put in, or more cash flow. Is that how you view the committee? Because I don't see them telling us essentially how to invest the money, we would still work, as the fiscal officer has, through a true investment counselor, someone who actually makes investments. Because that's why
yeah.
I have, you're welcome to come in. I have envisioned, you don't make recommendations to this committee of people you believe might eventually want to make proposals to us on how we should be investing our funds. So they would be off.
This
Okay.
is, yeah, the intent, I think, was to be more of a steering committee, that would, almost, would assist in the interview of potential portfolio managers, so.
Yeah. Or how they do it, or, you know, or
What's
after
your
we've done
question?
it.
That's the first time I heard that. I thought the whole purpose of this was to have an outside, community-based group to come in to review that basically what we were doing was within, number one, the law and the guidelines of what we're allowed to do, and number two, in the best interest of the taxpayers. You get 3 people in there from 3 different firms saying, oh no, I like this person, and I like this person, I like this company. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for,
Right,
we're just looking for a review to make sure, are we doing the right thing for the best interest of the
Yeah,
taxpayer?
you're misinterpreting what I'm saying,
Okay.
or I'm saying it in a way that you're misinterpreting.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that we form a committee of individuals that, A, we are not investing with today, and B, that are experts in the field that are from the community.
Correct.
That can help look at, number one, and build a projection that, based off the model you already have, of here's the surplus cash we have now and we project to have as we ladder things out over the next 10 years. Based on that, here are the different types of instruments that are available to us that we can invest in. Here are qualified firms that fit the category that municipalities can invest with. And when it comes time to listen to their presentations, the committee listens to those presentations with us and with you, and helps provide a steering of, from a conservative approach, take 30% of the dollars you have, or whatever that percentage that we come up with, and we say, we have a block of dollars we need to invest, and we can tie it up for this period of time. Where's the best place to invest that money? The safest place for the taxpayer, while also earning a little bit of money on those taxpayer dollars that are parked.
That are not active at the current time.
So when I say interviewing a portfolio manager, when the next, whoever it is, Morgan Stanley comes in for a presentation, it would be nice to have them make that presentation to the committee and the board at
Okay.
the same time.
Okay.
So,
And I can see where that's
so,
from.
and that's where you can ask those challenge questions. It's not a matter of picking, well, I do business with this person or that person. So,
Well, you
but
choose
we're trying to cast a wider net and get more input.
Right. A greater variety of input as what the kinds of things that we can do and how we should do it, and
Does that
what the
follow?
public finds acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll come back in within the next couple of
Yeah,
meetings?
we'll
Because
have
we
to-
wanna
I'll-
get it all constituted before September, because that's when our year is up with Morgan Stanley.
Right. So, I'll go back and we definitely, I'll go back and check with Ms. Gellin, but we definitely have to fill one position on the audit committee. So,
Okay. Well, I told you my recommendation. That we can do it now, or you can wait till you speak to Mrs. Gum. and
Yeah,
come
I'll
back.
wait.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very good. Anything else, sir?
that's all I have.
You're gonna do the human resources also?
Yes, the best I can. It's time to renew with our third-party administrator, Frank Gates. Frank Gates has been involved with the township and obviously made a few presentations last year to the board in regards to our group ratings and how we stay in that group. We were kind of concerned because they go back and look at the history of BWC claims and see whether we could still get the group rating. And we're happy to report we can. And I have a motion there and the purchase order.
Okay, now, what's the number that you have on that, sir?
17,216. And that matches.
Now, what's that one for? Okay, we have a couple of things here. We had one that shows what
This
the
is the
group
big-
savings is and what the group premium would be.
And right below that it says to re-enroll.
And then
And then to
this is
re-enroll.
for,
Right
the rating service.
Right above that.
Yeah, to re-enroll, we have to complete the BWC AC-26 form, which HR manager will be handling that, as well as the Frank Gates service fee.
Okay, so that's what the 17,216 is.
That's
Okay,
correct,
the service.
$17,216.
It's not the premium. Okay,
No.
okay, fine, I'm on board.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the Frank Gates 2015 group rating invoice in the amount of $17,216 and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
yes.
Thank you, board.
And the biweekly report was in our packet. And since we don't have Mrs. Gustafson here, I guess we're not going to have to ask her any questions. And
Alex,
this is a area where you're gonna sign the information here for the gates?
Sure.
Did meetings start with Dr. Grice, or? If the
Yes,
others-
I met with Miss Grice last week to set up a schedule. She is gathering a lot of information. She was more like handbook information and get a copy of the handbook, the organizational chart. She is scheduled to meet with the HR manager on the 25th,
Okay. She has not already met with her, though.
just to schedule their
Just the schedule.
time. Yeah,
Okay.
after she met with me.
Okay.
Yep.
There was a note she had met with Ms.
Yeah, she met, and I introduced them and said, try to schedule each other's appointment time and how Dr. Grice wanted to proceed.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
in zoning, we have the zoning report in our packet also. Looks like building has been picking up versus last year. Single-family permits in 2013 at this time is 10, this year is 18. So that's a significant increase from one year to the other, although it's not a huge number, it still shows the increase in what's taking place.
Just let the board know that we are expecting 3 new houses permits this week that I'll be handling for Mr. Amrine while he's on vacation.
Okay. so
Which
that's-
development?
They're all, I don't know exactly where they are, but they're all Ryan homes.
Oh, okay. So either Bexley or not Bexley, but
Yeah, and then,
it could- Up on Spring
and
Ridge.
it could be Bexley as well.
a little
Okay.
premature, but.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're selling hard now.
Yeah, there's two lots in Bexley that are already marked sold for Ryan, so I don't know if those are the ones that'll be coming in.
Okay.
You might pass on to Mr. Amrine that, I was speaking to the developer on MI's portion there, and they said that they are not gonna they are canceling the trailer
Yes,
and building a model.
yes, they did, because the delay in getting the trailer permit and everything else, and quickly the roads are being put in, they're gonna go straight to a model home. So we're also expecting that pretty soon, since, I don't know if they're laying asphalt yet. Thursday. So everything else got approved, and so that project's moving forward very quickly as well.
Great. Okay.
Okay, and they also included the draft of the, I guess the solid waste management proposal that's coming through.
That's correct. There was 2 meetings last week that Mr. Amrine attended, representing Beavercreek Township. He did put the draft policy in your packet. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please direct them to Mr. Amrine.
The letter to Newport was delivered or only drafted?
I
He
believe-
put in his notes, he wrote an enforcement letter to Mr. Newport. Just curious if it was delivered or if it was still in review.
I believe he was going to deliver it before he left on vacation. So
Okay. Anything else on zoning?
No.
Okay, Mr. Terry.
Afternoon, Board. I have no purchases this reporting period, just answer questions on my bi-weekly report. We'll let you know that the audio system has been tested several times this morning. and would like some direction with the previous meeting, if you'd like to leave it online, or if we're gonna bring it down.
I think you should take it off, because the people who did watch it said they couldn't hear anything or understand anything anyway, so I don't think that it.
It'd be less
added,
confusing
yeah.
to take it down.
Okay, just wanted to get,
Is it possible to put something on the,
we can
in the
put
area
technical
saying,
difficulty or something
yes.
along those lines,
Yeah.
we could put something in a
Right.
placeholder for that.
just so they know there was a meeting, but
You can
Yeah,
view you can view the minutes at,
Right.
here with a link.
We could probably do that, or, yeah, we could, depending on how large they are, how many pages were the minutes?
like two.
Yeah, not that much.
Okay, cause we could probably post those.
Just-
direct
just-
snapshots.
We
just
put the
something.
minutes online
I put
anyway.
them
right?
online.
We do, they're
They're
online
on.
anyway.
So maybe
Just say
the
minutes are online, if you're interested, go.
Beavercreek Township. That's
All
fair
right.
enough.
Any
Okay.
questions on the bi-weekly?
As far as Mr. Erickson, are we on schedule as far as, we had laid out a block of essentially dollars and hours, for a
Yeah,
period
we're
of time?
progressing, just fine right now. He hasn't worked, he's been keeping the same 20 hours a week right
Okay.
now. We haven't started in where we're gonna need the additional time, but yeah, we're on schedule.
I just didn't know if you had accelerated that yet. or
No, we have not.
Pushed
We
it to
got the
34.
servers in place, they're, the need for the Citrix update, and, but we haven't really needed him to work extra hours yet, so.
Okay.
We had a big, storm the other day, it was Friday, with a lot of lightning. And I happened to be talking to the township administrator, and he said, it hit right close to him. Did we have any damage to the tower?
Thankfully, no.
Very good.
It did hit, if it didn't hit the tower, it was awful close, but we did have some, electric, we did lose power, but, nothing, no damage to the servers. I'm not sure what the radios, chief, if any, damage there, so.
Mine flickered, but never went off, so it's, I just wondered if we had anything here, because Mrs. Harriet sounded as if it was worse down here than it
It
was
was
at mine.
bad, yeah, we dodged a bullet on that, so.
Okay, well, good. We don't have it, an outage, that's positive. Very good. I don't have any further questions.
Nothing
Yeah?
further.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Mr. Parks.
Good afternoon. Just have one emergency purchase request today to replace the outside unit at the maintenance building. The compressor ended up having a dead short in it. It was roughly $2,800 to repair it, or $3,200 for a new complete unit outside. After speaking with Mr. Zaharian, we decided to go with the new unit, which gets us the brand new warranty and everything going.
What's the life expectancy on those kinds of units?
15 to 20 years, and we got about 14 out of that.
Okay. Yes, it would be foolish to pay $2,800 to repair when you can
That is correct.
extend it for the next 15 years for a little better.
What was the warranty they gave us on that?
On this one,
On the new one?
it's 10 or 15 on the compressor, and it is 5 years on repairs to the unit itself,
Okay.
labor.
What brand was it?
I do
Don't
not know, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
The only reason I'm asking these questions is I just, in a different world, I just installed 2 of these commercial units.
Mhm.
And I found out that there's a period, if you register the unit within 90 days after it's installed with a Lennox brand, it doubles the warranty. And I didn't know that before,
Huh?
but I just learned that.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably wasn't a Lennox brand, but I will
Okay.
have to check.
Yeah, well,
So,
read that warranty very carefully.
And
I mean,
it was in the very fine print that it came with a 5 and a 10, and then if you registered it, if the actual, not the contractor, but the end user registered the unit within 90 days, it was an automatic double the warranty. So,
Hopefully by the time I'm back from this meeting, it will be installed.
good.
And you're gonna read that warranty very carefully.
I will read it right before I pass it on up the chain.
Okay, very good.
I'll make a motion to approve an emergency purchase request 00320 to Air Force One for a new outside HVAC compressor in the amount not to exceed $3,200, and to have the administrator sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
yes.
And that's all I have except for my bi-weekly report. Couple of quick updates that's happened since we turned this in. We did pick up the new sheriff's vehicle today. So it's in and in process, trying to get the equipment on it. Also, Friday afternoon, we lost the rescue unit to the transmission problem. So it's going out for repair. We're waiting on an estimate. So we might have another emergency purchase coming sometime this week.
How old is that rescue unit?
90, I want to say 96. Don't quote me on that.
Okay, that's 18.
It was prior to purchasing this building.
Well, I can't tell you what date I remember when we purchased this one. Time sort of flies here.
It was in the
But
late.
it was after
late
94 and
90s.
before 96, you're saying?
Yeah, it's in the late 90 time frame, if memory serves.
Okay, and if you would look at it and see what the repairs have been on it and compare, is it worthwhile to repair it? Or is it time to review what we do with it, how we do it, and do we need something that's, we need a newer one? I don't particularly like putting a lot of money into used if the life expectancy isn't going to really be beneficial.
We can look at that. I don't know that it's any place in the replacement schedule that was proposed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Actually, we have it for review for this year, and we're in the early stages of the review for usage, not for maintenance at this point.
Okay, maybe a combination. What do you think, sir?
When you complete your review, then we can look at it. That'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the biweekly report?
No, everything okay on factory? I was concerned with the rain this week because we had at my house quite a bit of rain.
Factory has been good the last 2 weeks.
Okay, because I had 1.5 inches one day and about another ½ inch right after that. And I know usually when it comes to 1 inch, I get a notice that it's,
It all depends on where it falls. Most of it was south of 35, this last round as it came through.
okay.
So as long as it hits there and doesn't hit north, we survive a little better through that.
Well, that was positive. I was sure that we hadn't missed an email. But I always question it when I see that much rain coming through since I do measure it at home. Thank you.
Thanks.
But the soccer tournament is going on now, cause I found that out on the way here.
Yes.
Just saying, so don't,
What?
you know,
What's
but,
going on?
there's the
the
regional
soccer
soccer
tournament.
tournament, so to cut down,
Right, this weekend, okay.
it's going on now.
All
So you're saying do
packed.
not take Yellow Brick
Don't
Road?
go Yellow Brick Road, stay away.
After today,
Yeah,
it cuts in half, so the traffic should get a little
okay.
better.
Yeah, today it was packed.
But the teams get better.
Well, the teams get better, but Wednesday's the final Wednesday morning, so you should be out there by like noon or 1 o'clock.
Okay. Chief Vandenboss.
Good afternoon, board.
Texting me 'cause he's.
Two purchase requests for your consideration today.
Thank you. I got it.
As I noted in the report, the purchase requests are for sending 2 chief officers, specifically Chiefs Young and Merckx, to Fire Rescue International for training. This is kind of a continuation of FDIC, as I noted in there in the report. When we did a complete review of FDIC, including taking into consideration the board's discussions regarding the appropriate levels of training and officer development, we ended up sending only 3 employees to FDIC instead of the 6 that were approved. We got a lot of good information from them. Matter of fact, they've come back. They've made a complete report to senior staff. There's a summary report for you in the packet for this week. We've implemented a number of items that they brought back and have plans for several other things to be implemented. What we'd like to do then is take the money that was unspent on FDIC for the 3 that we did not send and reallocate it to sending these 2 officers, not 3, and the cost is basically the same per officer, so it's not an additional cost. There will be an overall savings when we're done, but we'd like to send them to more rank appropriate training, which would be held at this Fire Rescue International. So there's a number of items in the packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have and go from there.
This training is only, this calendar year is only occurring at this location.
Correct. This is it's a national conference, and it hops around. I think it's annually. It varies. So it's I attended it probably 10 years ago. It was in New Orleans. It's been in Chicago. It's been in Colorado. It's been in Utah. This year it's in Texas.
Texas in June or July.
Yes.
Is no holiday.
No.
They will stay and work very hard in the hotel.
I think they'll probably be in a conference center and in a number of classrooms.
Okay,
Did you?
Do you have purchase request?
I'm fine.
Yes.
Okay, you have all the purchase requests.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the following purchase request 07144 to PNC IAFC for fire training in the amount of $1,340 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the following purchase request 07146 to PNC Omni Dallas Hotel for hotel expenses in the amount of $666.65 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
yes.
And these are not typos. Just as we get into the next, all the meeting and travel expenses all came out of the same line, but they're for 3 separate purchases. They're all on the same purchase request. So as you go through, these are the correct purchase record number.
Right, these add up to this.
Yes, yes,
That's
sir.
what I was hoping. Okay. I make a motion to approve purchase request 07146 to PNC vendor to be determined for travel expenses in the amount of $1,080 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second, I had read that amount differently at one point, and I was wondering where you got the cheaper tickets.
Yes.
Because I know when I go, my
Yeah.
tickets are, well, not that, I plan in advance, so my tickets are a little less than that. Is that for cabs and everything else that
Yes,
they're gonna
this is
take?
for 2 airfare for the appropriate car rental, and the parking is included actually in the hotel cost.
Okay,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
yes.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 07146 to John Merks and David Young for meal allowance, each in the amount of $396, and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
yes.
Thank you very much, board, and I'm sure they're going to bring back some good information. We'll have a summary report when they've returned as well.
And I do want to thank you for including Lieutenant Brewer's report. It was very well done. It was complete. It let us know we actually end up paying for, why we send our people to bring back the information to make our department even better than it is. So
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Well, thank you, and I'll pass it on to her. The second item, as we mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for some costing information to come back before we'll be ready to present that to the board. The last item we had for the agenda for today was the biweekly report. Just a couple highlights on their contract negotiations we'll be speaking about shortly, but we are in mediation now, so where the dispute resolution process is defined by CERB. So that is progressing forward, and we are still making some forward progress on it. It's just a little bit slower now. We did complete the FDIC review, as I just mentioned, and we have made a couple significant changes to our incident management manual already. So there's a lot of new science out here that is actually changing the way in which we think about some fire attack. And so it's had some profound effects already as far as where we need to be going. And this year was a bit of a culmination of the past 2 or 3 years of sending folks, where a lot of the bigger picture is now coming clear. So just to give you one example, there was a time when there was a thought that you don't throw water on smoke, and the idea was that smoke was just a byproduct of combustion, and that throwing water on it is a waste. What they're finding now is smoke is a fuel in and of itself, and it's usually superheated. And by putting water in smoke, we can usually start to contain the environment and cool the environment such that we will get fire control faster. Another example is they're now saying that there's always been a concern about pushing fire, so the idea that our hose streams can actually cause fire to travel in the opposite direction from which we apply water. And so in the past, we've gone to great lengths to navigate within a structure to fight essentially from the unburned side. And what they're finding now is the time that it takes to make that navigation and get up into a tactically advantageous position for that, you've already lost more ground by fire growth than you would have prevented if you had just attacked the fire from the closest, safest location. So what you'll probably see is a lot more very aggressive direct attacks on fire, including through windows, through doors, that we would typically not have done 5, 10, 15 years ago. But what they're finding is that by, again, cooling and containing the fire very quickly, we can save ground that we would have lost due to fire growth otherwise. So pretty radical concepts, especially for dinosaurs like myself. A lot of the new guys think, yeah, this is what we've been taught in fire school. So we're catching up. We're trying to learn from the science as well as the history and tradition. So it's good stuff. Just a quick update on the Youth Works. I appreciate you going back and forth with their attorney at Montgomery County. At this point, I think we have a great document that we'll probably look to try and implement next year. So we're having a hard time making contact and even getting the clerical students that we're hoping to kind of recover the summer with. So we are going to probably just go ahead and cut our losses on it for this year and look to try and get involved very, very early in next year's process for that.
So the project that they were gonna work on in prevention, was that a wish list item, or was that a need to do item?
It is I would say it's halfway in between. It's one of those where the hydrant testing in and of itself is something that we try to do every year. The county has almost entirely cut hydrant testing, or I should say, as far as I know, they've entirely cut hydrant testing out of their program. So the only hydrant testing that gets done is the testing that we ourselves do. So what we were looking to do is make up ground from the fact that they're not doing it anymore and try and get as many hydrants done as possible. So we'll still be out, we'll still be doing some, it just will not be nearly the same numbers that we would have otherwise been able to do. The work in prevention, as far as the scanning, the filing and all that, that was a little bit more of a wish list. It's something where we have a project we know needs to be done, but we don't have staffing to do it right now, and so this is an opportunity to do it with no additional cost. So a little bit more of a wish list, but again, a valuable project. It's something that needs to be done. We just don't have the staffing to handle it at this point.
On the hydrant testing, is there a volunteer base out there that we can tap for something like that?
I don't know if there's a volunteer base, but there's probably some major liability issues regarding who we would have do it.
No different than if you had students.
Yeah, it's not a particularly glamorous or exciting or fun job. So it's one of those things, if we could get some volunteers who are interested, we could certainly look at tasking them with that. But for example, even our current auxiliary, who does a lot of volunteering for the department, that's a little outside of what they've signed up to do. So,
Okay.
but
What
yeah,
is
if you
the-
know some students, I'll be happy to work to try and get them.
If they need community services, what you're saying.
Called
What is the
Scouts.
value?
I didn't know if Sinclair had a program where they would place students in service work.
I've never heard of it, but we'll keep our ears open just in case.
What is the value of doing the hydrant testing?
Two things. One is it allows us to pre-plan our water supply. So our water supply is, well, you especially know over your years of service here, has grown in fits and starts and is actually essentially a combination of about 6 or 7 different water systems. The impact of that is we have areas that are new and high pressure, high flow. We have areas that are old, that are low pressure, low flow, and sometimes are very near to each other. So it's not as simple as knowing that on this street I have old hydrants and on that street I have new hydrants. Sometimes you can have 2 hydrants almost immediately adjacent to each other, one with very good flow and one with very poor flow. So by going out and testing these areas, we know, number one, where the good hydrants are and where the bad hydrants are. The other thing, and we actually found this, I don't know, dozens of times over the years, when hydrants when they do get flowed or when they get worked on more often than not, there is a chance that a hydrant valve or a system valve may not get opened completely after work. And so when we do these tests, if we see certain readings all along the line and then a sudden drop, we can go back and say, hey, do we have a valve issue? Do we have a pump issue? Do we have some other sort of issue that's causing an unplanned or unnecessary restriction of flow? And so we can get that. And quite frankly, the other thing that we're finding these days is there are areas of the system as it is getting older that are prone to failure. We've had some failures on testing, we've had some failures on fire flows, we've had some failures, the most recent on Grange Hall, that was not related to fire department operations at all. But so by exercising the system, we're able to try and keep the highest level of maintenance to it. So identifying bad spots, correcting them where we can, or heaven forbid a failure occurs, at least it's occurring in a non-emergent sense where you can go ahead and get the repair done as opposed to waiting for an emergent incident and then having to deal with that on top of an emergency.
What is Xenia or Sugar Creek doing if the county's falling behind or pushing it to the side?
I know years ago, Bellbrook did a paint project, which, as the chief could tell you, explained that all our hydrants should be painted and color coded, so when an engine arrives, they'll be able to determine how much flow they can get. So yellow barrel means a certain size opening. The colors on the top indicate how many gallons per minute they should get. I do not know what Bellbrook Fire or Sugar Creek do to test their hydrants. City of Xenia every twice a year goes out and flows every hydrant. And really the job there is just to make sure, like the chief had indicated, make sure it works. So we set aside 5 days to do it. The fire department and the road department, essentially the water department, go out and Monday through Friday, with one day being a rain day, and opens every hydrant throughout the community. And we do find a lot of issues, and we do it twice a year because, obviously after the winter we just had, we're going to find a lot of hydrants, or what we've seen is with the settlement and thaw and constriction that a lot of the pipes have broke and have some water main breaks.
So how do they fund that then? Is that with regular time, overtime, combination of?
Combination, yeah. The fire department doesn't pay the overtime, but the road department may have some extra people in to do that. They did change it from night. They used to do it at night because it's less interruptive to the residents. But what it does in that community, it definitely stirs up everything in the water system. So if you know anybody in Xenia twice a year, do not do laundry during that week because it will mess up your laundry. But that's how we do it. But they have a fully staffed water department at the city. The county has made several cuts throughout the years where they can no longer provide that service to us.
Because Xenia has its own department
Sure.
versus ours being the county.
It's not a problem until you pull up to a fire and you realize you have the low flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you know beforehand, you know what to expect and what how you deal with it.
And a quick question, if you're finished with that topic. I've had probably at least two people, organizations, whatever, come through my neighborhood in the last week wanting to paint address numbers on the curb.
You are welcome to pay somebody if you'd like to provide for their fundraiser.
Well, here's
I
my
would
thing though.
not recommend curb painting.
Okay.
Curb painting gets covered by leaves, it gets covered by trash cans, trash bags, it gets covered by snow. So it is usually, it seems like whenever we need to find the curb paint, it's covered up or it's obstructed somehow. So
Because I wanted to say, like maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, auxiliary or some through the fire department, there seemed to be a group that did it where it at least stayed. That when they painted it, it lasted 3 to 4 years. Now it seems like they're coming through and they'll paint it on for $20 or whatever it is. It lasts 2 seconds and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I know they're not affiliated with you guys, but I thought I'd ask the question because I find it very odd that.
the fire department does not endorse curb painting
Okay.
at all. The fire department's auxiliary, as one of their fundraisers, they do sell the street address signs, and that's actually what we recommend. So it is the appropriate color green with the white reflective, designed to be generally mounted on a mailbox post, and that is what the crews are most used to looking for.
And the uniform, so as
Yes,
they
they're
come up and down
uniform,
the street.
they're
It's,
easy to see, they're at a spot where we know where to look.
Could, as a public service, could we maybe put that on the website, how to get those reflective
Absolutely.
address? Because I would like to have one actually, so.
Oh,
Well, I could hook you
talk
up
to
with
Michelle,
one, so
and Michelle will get you one.
Michelle, okay.
I'll get you the form.
But it might be
Yeah.
something good to put on, you know, in summertime,
Right.
especially if all these groups are kind of going around and hitting the neighborhoods. It might be
Yeah.
something that other people have the question too. I don't know.
And that might be something that
At the
Michelle
popcorn
could
festival.
resurrect.
Yeah, they're usually.
They sell at the popcorn
festival,
festival,
they're usually
yeah.
at the open houses, but yeah, I'll make sure it's on the website. I thought it
Yeah.
was. but
I
And
don't
you
know.
can ask Michelle to resurrect the article they had written previously, and we can put it in the next In Touch, that they're available again, that they're continually available. And I forget what the charge is, but
It
Yeah.
just, like I said, it
it
happened
was,
to me, so I thought I'd
it was
ask.
recommended many years ago by a constituent, saying, you know, other communities do it, can we get this done? And it's very obvious there are areas that one house after another, you have it, and it's easy to find, and you know where you are.
Yeah.
And it would be very helpful. That's,
But you're absolute, to be skeptical of the curb painting, absolutely, if you wanna donate to their cause, donate to their cause, but don't invest it for emergency purposes in curb painting.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else that you want to?
Not to beat a dead horse, but, so we identified that we will not be able to do hydrant testing this summer.
Well, we will not have the youth in doing it. Our crews
Okay.
will still be doing some, it'll just be very limited in scope.
Okay, and so what would the cost be for us to do it correctly?
I don't know. We
And
can find out.
I'm not asking for that now,
Yeah.
but if you can maybe at the next meeting or something, just identify what that is.
How many hours were you expecting the young people to do?
I have those hours, I can go back and find those, and we can.
Plus,
put a
the cost for these supervisors would be,
Right.
give you a figure of merit, is what
Right,
you're.
and if we whatever, just looking for what would the most effective way to do it, to meet the minimum standard that you think is acceptable, and what is the cost?
Okay.
And whether it's a combination of your department roads, or just your department, whatever it is.
And is that what this community would like, to make sure that, the hydrants in front of the houses are going to provide the protection that we have assumed that they're going to?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll put together
Just-
something for you that'll be, I don't think we've costed out doing it ourselves as a full project in a long time, so.
But you had enough hours
Yeah,
put
we
in there,
have the
so you
hours for
knew.
the students, so I can put our cost to those hours, so we
Okay.
can figure it out pretty quick.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay,
On the community room, I noticed you had who
Yeah, that was me.
who has used that in the past. Our policy on that room, we do not charge for use of that room?
Not currently. We have a damage waiver, I think, if I remember correctly, but we do not have an upfront charge for the use of the room.
Okay. But we obviously do have a cost to maintain that room as far as wear and tear, cleaning, things like that.
Yes.
Are the dominant users from within the community or outside of the community? I'm just looking at some of the names,
yeah.
and I don't necessarily notice if they're.
These are all, if the organization itself, the parent organization is broader, say Girl Scouts, this is a Beavercreek portion of the Girl Scouts, and same with the Dayton Model Investors. It's a Beavercreek resident or residents that are part of that group that use it. And there's a number, Greene County Liberty Group uses it. We have a commercial user who has used it, and they've donated to the department in the past, which is Kohl's. They do some management stuff. They've obviously got the store here in Beavercreek. So I think every group that has used it has a Beavercreek tie of some sort. They're not all non-for-profit, they're not all club, so we've had kind of a mix from commercial all the way down to kind of hobby, so and a little bit in between.
Sure, okay.
Did you want him to see if there's some
Just-
costing that you could say that?
No, it's just a point of curiosity. So,
Yeah, and
but,
so-
obviously, there's cost to maintain the space for,
Yeah,
even
and
if it was dark. So.
The wear and tear is probably starting to catch up on the room. We're gonna have to do a little bit of work down there. So on one hand, we have a lot of folks who are in and are familiar with the department, and we have interaction with it we wouldn't otherwise. But there's definitely a cost to maintaining it and making sure that it's prepped, and the guys do a good job of setting up tables or making sure that things are taken down and put away appropriately, and policing the room after its usage.
Maybe you can compare that with the usage that we use it for our own training, to see how much,
Okay.
what is public and what is
Mm-hmm.
our usage versus the community use. And at one point, I believe, there was a discussion that it was not for profit. It was one kind of a concept versus if it was a for-profit organization, that perhaps there should be some sort of a fee, or not use at all.
Yeah, I don't recall anything ever being decided, although I know it's been discussed
Yeah.
at various times in the past. So yeah, if it's time to establish a slightly different policy, we're open to doing that as well. The other thing that is not on here, you may have seen over the weekend, just a reminder, when you're in the commercial parking lots, keep your head on a swivel. They are dangerous
Yes.
places, especially the Walmart in Beavercreek. So we did have a pedestrian struck in a potentially very nasty accident. It was unpleasant as it was. She was struck by a car basically making a left turn from in front of Walmart in the main travel lane. The car was turning left into one of the parking aisles, turned in front of a car, so she accelerated apparently to get out of the way, and in doing so struck a pedestrian, knocking the pedestrian under a car, which she then struck and then pushed that car into a third car. So 3 cars involved total. The pedestrian had her head pinned under just behind the passenger side front tire for a short period of time. Sounds like she will probably be okay at this point, but it's a very serious type of accident, obviously. And it's one of those where from everything I heard, and it's all kind of second, third hand, the pedestrian was just doing her normal thing, walking along the cars going up to the store like you normally would, and was kind of struck out of nowhere. So yeah, keep your head up and your eyes open. And I won't say avoid Walmart because it's every parking lot you go to, but
But that one is weird. There are a lot of people having a hard time with that
Yeah,
new,
yeah.
because you can come in and then you can make that quick.
yeah.
But this was in the
we've
main
had care flight
blocking
calls in
area
that parking
itself.
lot, so there are some serious crashes in the parking lot.
I did notice, because I caught that on television, number one, that they took the patient to Miami Valley. And the second was that they, what?
Is it
Sawings
like
across the street.
It was
But it's
a
the
head
kind of
trauma.
accident, I believe, the
Yeah.
kind
It
of
was head
trauma.
trauma.
Head trauma. So
And
she's
that
going
was
to
my
a level of
assumption
trauma
that
center.
the level of trauma
Yes.
required the other transport. And
Yeah,
the-
I believe
and-
the second patient that was transported did go to Swain, yes.
And the second one is they spelled Brian Bessinger's last name incorrectly. But,
They had it correct on DaytonDailyNews.com.
okay, but on the television, they had him as Getzenzer, or sort of, they, I think, I don't know anyone with that last name, and I recognized the person,
So
but he spoke very nicely, so that was fine.
he's good people.
Okay. The
That's all I
funny
had for
things
the
that
board.
you watch as you go, right? You know, what do you notice? When they said Beaver Creek, okay, now I watched that one.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for the chief?
No, thank you.
All right,
Okay,
thank you for your
thank
time.
Okay, and our next item would be for our legal advisor, Mrs. Frick.
Yes, thank you, board. Alex had forwarded in the packet a draft procedure for a special meeting. Ms. Aaron's pointed out some appropriate changes that I made today, and we have before you. If there are any other questions or suggestions, changes.
Okay, now I have to find out where I put it.
The only change you made was between clerk and fiscal office.
Right, and also
Sorry.
the reference to it's a town meeting instead of township meeting. It's cut and paste errors, and then also that, and I think it's appropriate that not only the administrator contact the elected officials or the board members, but also the fiscal officers, so that somebody is here and present if she's not available.
Okay, so,
Right, I saw that, and I had no problem with it either.
right, and it doesn't say that, okay, it's just essentially assuming that the fiscal office will arrange someone to take minutes. If either she or her, if the fiscal office or her assistant can't be, whatever it is when we decide.
Well,
Is
and
that
that's why I
what-
put it.
Is that the assumption that's in there?
That's why I put fiscal officer or representative from the fiscal office. I wasn't sure how other to term it, assuming neither her or Jim were available.
Someone will be
Someone
appointed to
would-
take minutes. Okay, and that's that's assumed in the wording. I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, it was just changed so that I was included in the discussion
Right,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
scheduling it. That was all, so that I can cover it or
I mean,
have somebody
yeah.
appropriate cover it. That
Well,
was
the
it.
other key is that the fiscal office has been the one who's sent out the notices,
And still does.
so that they would need to know when the
No.
meeting was taking place.
Right.
That's,
Right.
and that's okay.
Do you have the revised language, just so I can read that?
Can I get an email?
It
Oh,
came
no,
in an
it's budget
email
cuts.
today and
Yeah,
I,
that's it.
Thank you.
every once in a while, I read it and then I can't find it.
It's in your email.
I just looked in the email. I just
Oh.
looked at it and it wasn't.
Well, sometimes the problem I have, I'll hit reply all, but when it's to BT elected officials, then it kicks back to me and I forget that I have to go in. Cause it's not, I tried to set it up once and didn't.
But I
think to
actually
go
got
correctly.
that today, cause you, with that
With the second
caveat, that
It'll
you
be
sent it
attached.
each individually because it did get kicked back, and I read the change, and it should be for today, and it's not here,
It might be in your chat.
okay? It's, okay, it's under the trustee
And you can pick
packet
out
there.
what you wanna say with that, Mr. Kretz, and I'll make sure that it's
not
cut
that-
and paste.
It's not that long. You can
Okay.
read it, so if you wanna read the revised,
Okay,
if you're okay with that, then
yeah, special meeting, trustee meeting procedures rules. Special meetings pursuant to section 504.09 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township hereby adopts the following rule and procedure regarding calling special meetings. A special trustee meeting may be called to conduct any lawful business of the township. Special meetings may be called when one or more members of the Board of Trustees notifies the township administrator of a need for a special meeting, or the township administrator becomes aware of a need for a special meeting. In the event that the special meeting must be scheduled prior to the board's next regular meeting, the township administrator shall contact each elected official to determine the availability of a quorum of board members for such a meeting and the availability of the fiscal officer or a representative from the fiscal office. That was the concern I had. Does it have to be from the fiscal office or just someone that they send to make sure minutes are taken?
Well,
I
I mean,
wanted
It's gonna be
that-
one or the other.
It'll be
We're-
either one of us.
Yeah, we're really going at the same time.
Well, I understand, but you know, Lord only knows, things can happen.
It could happen.
It could.
We
And
try
as
not
long
Or
to.
I
as
can
some-
designate somebody.
Yeah, okay,
I
that's,
can-
I just wanted that to be
Yeah.
covered here when I read that piece.
well, we could say, or a designee from the fiscal office rather than a representative.
I think that would be good, designee, and that way we're covered.
It's fine.
Except in the case of an emergency, all board members and the fiscal officer are given notice at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. In case of an emergency, board members and the fiscal officer must be given sufficient notice such that the fiscal officer has sufficient time to cause to be posted notice of said meeting at least 24 hours in advance. I'll read the last sentence and go back. The fiscal officer shall notice said meeting, including the time, place, and purpose of the meeting, by posting said notice as made for all regular meetings, including at the township administrative building and/or other prominent and conspicuous places reasonably accessible to the public on the township's website and with all usual media outlets. Now, I certainly hope that nothing of this sort ever takes place again, but I have been on a township board. It was 1974, and they needed a very special meeting, it happened to BCA, to take care of removal of debris from the Zenith tornado. And there was no 24-hour notice because it needed to be done that day.
There is a
There's-
clause.
there's
there
a
is
clause for
in there,
emergency.
there's an
Yeah,
emergency
by-
clause.
Well, it says,
But I think even by
Where?
statute, that
Statute
there
has
is emergency clause.
if there's an emergency, then we don't have to worry about these 24, 48.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be posted.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay,
Statute.
that's not in here.
That's
That's
statutory.
it.
Already.
It's already in the higher rise code.
Okay, I
Yep.
just wanna make sure it's all
Yeah.
covered and we're not missing anything. Okay. Did you wanna make that resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as read with the amendment regarding
One word.
designee.
Designee,
Let's just
yep.
write it
Right.
down there.
Designee instead of representative.
Correct.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Graff.
Yes.
Thank you, board, that's all I have.
Okay, did you wanna change that? And I'll initial it. There's
Forward a few.
representative somewhere in here.
I don't care, they can just.
At this time, we are going to, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Do you not want
Do you
to?
want the trustees?
Trustees, do you have anything to say?
Trustees, do you have anything?
The only thing I wanted
okay.
to ask, if we wanna do it in this meeting or if we wanna do it in the next meeting, Mr. Barone, on the, management discussion and analysis notes, emails that have been going back and forth regarding that. Do we need to discuss that now, or do we have time to digest that and come back meeting when we have a full board.
Or did you wanna have a special meeting?
Up to the board. I don't know how you want to handle
We could also schedule a special meeting prior to the next meeting, just whichever makes the most sense from your timeline.
I haven't been given any pressure
Okay.
yet at this point. I just know that it's.
Then maybe we just add it as an agenda item on the next regular meeting.
Well, we have the budget hearing in the next regular meeting.
Well, that's
as well,
5
so
minutes at the
Take 5
beginning of the
minutes.
meeting, so I don't
It's
think that's
up to you, however you want to handle it.
And you can still,
Just when we have a full board, we can discuss
right,
it.
and you can still send emails to ask questions
Sure.
and so that when you come, I haven't seen any discussion between the three of you.
We wouldn't. Maybe
You
not.
wouldn't, no, but if you wanted to ask a question of what have we done in the past or how,
Yeah.
what are the numbers, if you need more information before you make that decision, obviously we're happy to give that to you.
I don't remember having to deal with this before, but on the other hand, the fiscal office has the numbers. And the questions that came up, that, at least questions 1 and 2 for each of the years, deal with money coming in, less money was spent than actually came in, and why. And I guess what I'm looking at is that we knew that was gonna take place. It was nothing different than we had when we had passed the levy that expired this year. And next year what's going to happen is that because we're not gonna be collecting that second levy, the outgo will probably exceed the income. So then they're gonna ask us, why is the outgo exceeding the income? So the idea that to ask the question, the reason I see is that there's an excess is because we spent less money than came in, period.
Well, I think.
I don't know what explanation is needed.
The one question specifically had to deal with the fire fund.
Yeah, well, I'm
The other two
specifically talking about the
questions-
fire fund.
The other two questions were, what procedures has the board in place to handle the deficit?
That was 3, okay, that was the question 3. I'm talking about questions 1 and 2 on each of the years. Essentially dealt with that same thing. There's an excess of income versus outgo in that particular,
Oh, you do
Yeah.
have it, okay.
But they were addressed to Chief
Yeah, the
Vanderwall.
one was specifically asked for,
I don't know, it just
I
said
put
to me
David
in
on the email,
general,
so he
here are
could
the 2
answer that.
questions and.
I included
Did you see
David
who
on the
went with-
email, so he could
Yeah,
answer the
but
first question.
okay, so we didn't have to answer questions 1 and 2.
Right.
Question 3,
Yeah, I
Okay.
CC'd it to everyone who was responsible
I
for
understood
whatever
that.
portion you were responsible
okay.
Explain treatment in place to eliminate the deficit.
Okay.
That's really what I need the board to do, that's the only
Okay.
question I need the board to answer.
What I felt that the terminology, and I know it's been used here, but the terminology is misrepresenting what the fiscal health of the general fund.
Which term are you specifically?
Deficit.
asking? Okay, and that wasn't my
I-
term, that was the state's term.
Well, I'm saying, I believe the way they put it is they don't look at the totality. The fact is that yes, we understand in the past couple of years, and maybe even the 3rd year before that, that the amount of money coming into the general fund, mostly because of the decrease in the state funding over the past few years, has exceeded the amount of money we're spending from the general fund. But it didn't also indicate in the question that we had a carry forward of over like $1.7 million, so that there's no deficit in the fund. There's just an
When you do-
It's your
you do manage-
deficit, you're theoretically deficit spending. You're theoretically deficit spending, but the duration hasn't changed.
Right, but you're doing a
That's it.
management discussion analysis and notice of financial for one specific year.
Right, that's
They're
the
not,
change.
they're not looking, they wanna
Yeah.
know why in that year you spent more than
I
you brought in.
understand that. Well-
That's what they're doing, you understand that, so.
I know that we've been criticized in the past from the county auditor that we're carrying forward too much money, right? So here you are giving us, it's like between a rock and a hard place. One auditor says, you're carrying too much money over, you can't keep doing this, why are you carrying so much money? So now we are spending that down, when the other one's saying, why are you spending it down? Because we had this carry forward. Now, is that, you want the answer? I can give you that. My answer is because we had a carry forward that we have been criticized and carrying forward, and therefore are reducing that carry forward. Do we know in the future what we might do? That, I would say, demands discussion of the board on what we're gonna do, and if that's the answer you want, I'll be happy to answer it that way. But
I
to
don't-
me, it's not an answer.
I don't necessarily agree that the county auditor was specifically saying to spend your carry forward down in general fund. He was specifically saying that we had a fund that had $1.7 million in it that we kept carrying forward. At least in my sitting there, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's kind of where Mr. Graham was going with that.
Yeah.
And the state auditor's office is dealing with 1 year in particular. They are not looking forward or back to what we had in the bank.
But they look at the
You
time.
can't keep doing what you're doing if you don't have a bank account. We
I
fortunately
understand,
have
yes,
a bank account.
yes. And that's, if they are auditing the total fund, then they should audit the total fund and look at the total funds, you know, and,
We don't get to ask their questions
Yeah,
for them,
okay.
though.
okay.
That's
Well,
their
I
question.
can answer that question in a very general fund, and eventually we can figure out.
Well,
how to-
if the board would like to
So do you wanna
send
come up with
each
some sort of-
answers to those questions and I can formulate something, that's up to you. You don't have to
You
have
wanna
a special meeting or?
You wanna
we can-
sit together and come up with an
I'd
answer
say we
to
do that
that?
at the next,
Okay.
we take a little bit of time, because there's two separate issues. One is duration of the fund, period, and the other is what did you
Right.
do at a specific point and period of time, and why did you do it? And because if you do that same point over and over and over again, your
Oh,
duration.
I
will diminish.
absolutely know at some point you have to say, okay,
They wanna see
We-
you have a plan,
Yes.
that you
And that's-
realize
plan
your
is
deficit
that
spending, that's what they
eventually,
want.
yes. Well, yeah, but,
Then the other questions that were specific, I did CC the other, I was
Okay.
hoping that Mr. Vandenboss would speak to the fire fund question.
okay.
The answer is basically the same as the board's answer, so I'll take some guidance from them to formulate it,
Okay,
but
thank
the
you.
same
Okay.
general principle applies.
Okay.
Yeah, and the plan is
You're in
that
that,
we're going to, after this year, because this year we don't, no longer gonna be collecting the levy that we allowed to expire, we'll have a different income, and the income will probably be equal or less than some of the expenditures, particularly capital expenditures, because that was the whole concept of carrying forward that money to have the operating covered and the capital by the excess. That was my understanding that we've always done, so if that's the answer that they want, that's,
I'll have a draft for the next meeting.
okay.
so we'll just have it as an agenda item on the regular meeting, we'll just bring language and
Put it under old
we'll craft
business.
some language that we can agree to.
Okay.
Okay.
Fiscal officer, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Before I adjourn, anything else coming before us? Okay, so we have, we're not essentially gonna adjourn, we're gonna go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G4, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
yes. We don't foresee any